I think I've been quite understanding about Newcastle this season, and I've peddled as many excuses as I can think of for why we've been having setbacks. Like, I understand we're in that transitional phase, even though we overachieved last season, of trying to become a top 4 side permanently from where we are, which is top 8. We're having to go through a lot right now in terms of Champions League football, having a thin squad, and this is just going to be a learning curve, which is going to come with defeats along the way, and you've just got to support the lads. This is going to happen. But last night was really a moment of like, nah, even still, this isn't good enough, this. Just as a performance. We've lost 4 out of the last 5. We had 22% possession. Against any team isn't good enough for me. 4 shots and 22% possession is not good enough. I don't care who the fuck we're playing. Man City, Chelsea, even this poor Chelsea side who still have a fair bit of talent in them, but by Chelsea standards, not the Chelsea of old. And there's just a few things that happened in that game that I'm like, yeah, tiredness in Champions League football just doesn't equal 22% possession, 4 shots, and 4 defeats in 5 games. That's not acceptable. The numbers don't lie. And I know some people will just back Newcastle to the hilt no matter what, and we have come so far in such a short space of time that for some people, there's never a time to criticise Newcastle. But both things can be true. We can have overachieved. We can have achieved so much. We can still be understanding of the circumstances of the lads, but also say, even still, 4 shots and 22% possession ain't good enough. And it is not just that. Losing is a habit, and one you really don't want to get into. And I remember the old days of the Pardew era and other eras where once you started losing, it becomes easier and easier for players to let their heads go down and just sort of accept it. Now, I'm not saying that that's happening yet with the lads, but there are some really bad habits creeping in, such as giving up control of the game away from home, sitting back and just allowing teams to pin us down. In the last couple of weeks, it's happened against Everton, Spurs and Chelsea, all away from home, showing no control. Now, I'm not saying we should dominate before anyone takes my words out of context and tries to manipulate the point I'm making, but I'm saying we should have more control than 22% fucking possession against what is one of the worst performing Chelsea sides in recent memory. 20 years, I'd say. I'm not even saying we should win every one of those 3 games I've just mentioned by any means, but we're showing such a lack of control in those games, poor game management, and just generally accepting we're probably not going to win today. That's not really what I've come to know from this Eddie Howe team. And I know there's been individual moments that have cost us in those games as well. Miggy Almiron, countless one-on-one opportunities missed where he could have massively changed the way the game was going. Kieran Trippier at the back, looking like he's not himself right now, giving up easy goals. But still, the overall play of the game has been in the hands of the opposition far too much. I look at the way Arsenal play, home or away, the level of control they have in the game, because of the technical ability of the players that they've got in this squad. It's a massive level up from where we are right now. So we need to address that lack of technical ability ASAP, but we also need to be aware that every time you lose in that style away from home, which is being more and more consistent, it will be more and more likely to happen. And that's where alarm bells should be fucking ringing now. And like I say, I've accepted 3 out of the last 4 defeats out of the last 5 games. I haven't complained barely. I'm not an ungrateful prick of a fan, even though some people will try and make it out that way. I've been fine with it. I've understood. But this is absolutely gutting to go out of this cup in this manner, in such a pitiful way, where you just sit back and wait for Chelsea to fucking score. Because that's what we were doing. But some people haven't got the brains to realise that that's what we were doing. Yeah, we were defending well, but we were giving them every possible fucking opportunity to get that goal in. And it felt inevitable. That's not acceptable for me. We've got to offer far more of a threat going forward so that their fucking centre-backs have at least got something to worry about. Given the teams we've beaten in the Cup this season, and the fact that we've beaten Chelsea already this season, we had such a chance to go and get some silverware. I'm genuinely fucking worried I'm going to die before fucking this lot wins something. I was texting my mates, right, the Chelsea lads on the kickoff, Josh and Joey. The penalty shootout started. I'm like, we're losing, lads. What do you mean? It's 50-50, I went. We haven't won anything in 70 years, man. Sometimes clubs just have this thing over the club, and you have to move heaven and fucking earth to undo it. And we didn't do that in that game. I'm not saying there weren't some good performers who were trying hard. Bruno was giving it all, but the lack of ability really was fucking there in black and white. In terms of the game itself, Caicedo should have been sent off within 2 fucking minutes. Absolute joke of a decision. Kicked from behind, affected Gordon the entire game. Gordon eventually goes off injured due to not being able to maintain the levels, can barely run at top speed. Probably the first thing of note Caicedo's done in a fucking Chelsea shirt, the useless prick. And I actually give Chelsea a lot of credit in this game. They were really good and they showed how good they can be. But that bloke, what a fucking idiot. The referee had a nightmare. He was absolute shit. And I'm not saying we didn't make bad challenges either. Just generally, there was a lot of credit going his way. I mean, he missed a blatant fucking red card. How can you give credit his way? Newcastle lost Krath and Gordon to injuries from being literally kicked off the pitch by Chelsea. No protection offered by the referee. And I'm sure Chelsea fans will feel the same about things Bruno did. Fair enough, but it's just a shit ref. It's another couple of moments where you're like, fucking hell, another injury, man. Fucking hell. Especially Gordon, who's been such a key player for us this season. But we did get gifted a goal, it was just a dribble of hope from Wilson. Badiashile doesn't deal with it. The kid's 22. He's a decent defender generally, but he's had an absolute stinker there, and Wilson pops it in the back of the net. From that moment, I'm thinking, brilliant, 1-0 up, we'll get another one, we'll secure this, and then we can sit back. No. Let's sit back now. We offered virtually nothing from that moment on. We scored early. I don't know whether the players were tired. I don't know whether Eddie Howe saying, sit back, try and hit them on the counter-attack. But when you're taking off Gordon and bringing on Ritchie, how the fuck Matt Ritchie is still in our team? This Dan Ashworth, right? He's getting linked with going to Manchester United. You just can fucking have him. He's left us in a situation where we've got a geezer who probably shouldn't even be playing championship football coming on for us against Chelsea, the slowest man in the Premier League. Good servant to the club, yada, yada, yada. Mate, we got to try and win a fucking trophy. It's time to be ruthless. Callum Wilson, look, dead legs. Miggy Almiron has got a dead brain. But you're achieving fuck all in that front three. There was no threat. And between, the issues with injuries that Wilson and Isak are both seeming to have consistently, we need a third striker, desperately. And someone who's fast, who can put the fear of God in defenders when we do throw him on. Just a young lad who just gives us an outlet later in the game, because fuck me, we were so slow on the transition. Sick of it. And the fact that Ritchie is playing and Lewis Hall isn't begs the question, what the fuck is going on with this Lewis Hall situation? I don't know if we've had a look at him and we just don't like the look of him, or he's not worth the money. Another bit of recruitment that is heavily questionable from Newcastle from that summer, because out of the 4 players we've signed, only Livramento has actually proved to be worth anything so far. On Miggy Almiron, I know I can be a dick sometimes, and I don't want to be, right? I don't want to be calling the skis or anything like that, but we'll have to be ruthless, and games like this are the eye-opener that the management, the board, and everyone needs as to who the fuck is actually good enough. And Miggy Almiron's head down with zero technical ability, consistently giving the ball back, making wrong decisions, poor with the ball at his feet, poor shooting, consistently predictable. I can't bear it. If he starts a game next season, we've failed. How the fuck did we actually think that was going to be good enough? Him or Murphy? And the mad thing is Chelsea actually, although they had all of the ball, they weren't good with it. They're not a cohesive unit when they're moving forward. Their attacks break down easily, and we were defending all right. But they do have options off the bench that we just don't have. And even as crap as Mudryk is, generally speaking, in my opinion, the guy's fast, he's got legs, and they have a few options. They come off the bench, and Newcastle have got Trippier coming on, and I'm thinking he's had a bit of a rest lately. He made those multiple mistakes in those 2 games. The eyes were on him from a lot of the Newcastle fans, because they're just worried at the moment. When you see a player make that many mistakes in such a short space of time, you are worried. And again, he makes a mistake, hands the ball to Mudryk in his own box, and Chelsea weren't going to score all day, it looked like, despite Newcastle making it as easy as possible for them. So we made that even easier for them. Of all the people for it to happen to, I'm actually gutted for Kieran Trippier, because he is the definition of a professional, and he has been the best performing footballer at that club for the last 18 months. He's without doubt the best fullback Newcastle have ever had, and it's not even close. But he has been making those terrible mistakes. I know he had some time off from England lately for personal reasons. We don't know what's going on, but that would suggest, combining that with a few mistakes in the team, that there may be a reason to try and protect his minutes and give him a bit of a break. I don't know. But for a player of that quality, who was, up until 3 weeks ago, the number 1 performing right back statistically in world football, to have such a drop-off, I think we need to treat this with a bit of empathy, even though I think it's right to say not good enough, be criticised for his performances on the pitch, but understand that maybe there's more to this. And that's not me trying to protect him because I like the guy and I had him on the podcast. That's just me saying the honest truth of, this is massively out of character. It's not like Miggy Almiron, who always makes these kind of mistakes and it's just his game. This is highly out of character. And credit to Mudryk, he does slot it away. I know he's low on confidence himself, and that's probably why he's made this post to Kieran Trippier on his Instagram, which much said, Kieran, I just want to say, stay strong. Sometimes shit happens, but I think you're a strong footballer no matter what. Some Chelsea fans are obviously going, oh, he's scored on him and then he's bantering him afterwards. I think that was totally sincere. It's a rarity in football that, you shake hands in that way and show a level of compassion for your fellow professional, because football, it's a sport full of bitches, right? It's not a sport like boxing, for example, where this is common practice, or fighting of any kind. I got to say, respect to Mudryk, that is something you just rarely see in football, and fair fucks, good luck to him this season. I know he's going through a bad patch, but I thought that was a proper manly thing to do and a rarity in this game. So yeah, as I said, I knew when we went to penalties that we were fucked. Like Newcastle, we've had so many opportunities now, multiple cup finals in my lifetime, 12-point lead Premier League. Like, whenever it comes to crunch time, I always just think, nah, it's we've got to get lucky to steal a cup, to break that curse. And it ain't going to happen. Not against a team like Chelsea, who are proven winners. Even if it's a whole new squad or whatever, there's an aura about Chelsea. Gold, silverware, it just comes to them. Even the Champions League wins. It was mental the way they won those Champions Leagues. They have that thing that we just don't have as a club, where it's just that luck. And to be fair, like, not even about luck. They buried those penalties. They were fucking perfect. And that is actually a sign of the technique they've spent this £1 billion on, which we aren't allowed to. Trippier being the one to miss a penalty, and Richie, I felt terrible for him, but it just felt like even on the walk up, with everything going on with him lately, you were worried for him. And this is the weirdest thing, is what a striker of the ball he is. Like, he hit the bar from a free kick not long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and you were like, that was unreal, for one of the best free kick takers in football. And yet that's what happens when he takes the penalty. So again, adding to the worries of, is he okay, what's going on? But anyone can miss a penalty. Sometimes you can try and hit it too hard, try and hit it too well. What I'd never accept is when people try in that hop, skip and a jump shit and then powder puff it to the fucking keeper and make it easy for them. I'd rather you blast it wide. So I think our technical deficiencies again were exposed. The lack of squad depth was exposed, and Eddie Howe can only do so much. At some point, like every manager, Pep Guardiola included, you need technical ability to carry you over the line and nick you games here and there, and that's just not happening. We're relying so much on Eddie's tactics and the system. When we're not able to outrun teams because we are a little more tired, we're giving up the game too easily. We're not killing the game off when we're at 1-0 up. We're sitting back and resting our legs and shit. We need to be more ambitious and kill teams off when we get the chance. And we definitely in this January transfer window need to do anything and everything we can to bolster this squad and plug those fucking holes. And if we need to go into Saudi and ask them, oh, is Laporte available? Is Kante? Is Mane? Any of these kind of players? Take them, because Lord knows we fucking need them. And the way the Premier League are coming after us to stop us from spending money, we need to use every fucking cheat code possible, because City and Chelsea have used 1 million of them over the years, and now it's hard enough for us to even fucking sign players. So yeah, this was the lowest point of my season for me. I expected to go out of the Champions League at some point, but I had real hopes for silverware this season, and now to only have the FA Cup as an option, given how hard the FA Cup is to win when we were headed towards a possible quarter-final in the League Cup, it's really disappointing. Another year without silverware is the way it feels. Very unlikely, and probably not going to get top 4 unless we really sort things out. Let us know what you think in the comments. I know a lot of people say, oh, get behind the team. I have been trying, right? But that was shit. Thanks for watching. If you don't mind, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one.